Hello, good friends. I owe you an apology for it having been so long since I put up a video. We had a bout with COVID and some other things happened, but none of it adds up to a good excuse for not, and so I ask your pardon. Near us here, there's a place where some housing is being put in. And in this housing development along the streets, on one side of every street, there's a series of bright red signs that says, "Parking this side only, $250 fine." That's no light fine. And interestingly enough, they have them in Spanish as well. This is because the developers who are in charge of this housing construction realize that a large proportion of the workers are Spanish speakers, and if they put up the sign in Spanish, it'll get to them a lot better than if it is in English, and I applaud them for this. Not only that, they do a pretty good job of the Spanish. Notice that on this sign, the word solo has an accent on it. That accent means that the word solo is to be used as an adverb, not as an adjective. This is following Spanish orthography, even though a lot of people who try to write Spanish don't realize this. These people got it right. On the other hand, what does the sign mean? That's the interesting question. Does it mean that you can only park on the side where the sign is? In that case, the truck that you can see in the background is parked on the wrong side of the street. Or on the other hand, might it mean something different? Well, in English, I can read it two ways. One way says, parking is to be done on this side only. Otherwise, you will get a $250 fine. So a $250 fine for parking anywhere else than on this side of the street, especially if you park on the other side of the street. Don't do it. On the other hand, you can understand it to mean, as far as parking on this side only goes, there's a $250 fine attached to it. Don't do it. Park somewhere else. I can read it both ways. And I can read it both ways in Spanish. Estacionamiento de este lado. If you're going to talk about parking on this side, there's a $250 fine for it. Don't do it. On the other hand, you can understand it to mean there is parking only on this side of the street. There's a fine of $250 for parking somewhere else. Don't do it. Well, which is the right way to read it? This brought to mind some things from long ago. Back in the 1970s, we went up almost every summer to the Summer Institute of Linguistics at Grand Forks, North Dakota, at the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, almost Canada. This was in the time when they were first starting to seriously provide facilities for handicapped people. And they had signs, I remember them very well, that said, handicapped parking only between signs. So there'd be a sign here and a sign there, and the message was handicapped parking only between these two signs. Well, I figured they probably meant that other people are not supposed to park there. Only handicapped people are allowed to park between the signs. But that wasn't what it said. And I thought sometimes, well, what would happen if I were to be parked in one of those places and they haul me into court over it? My defense to the judge would be, hey, the sign says handicapped people are only allowed to park here. The rest, I'm not a handicapped person, so it doesn't apply to me. Even if I were a handicapped person, then I'm parking in the right place. So what's the deal? You think that would have convinced him? Probably not, but it was fun to think about. Isn't it weird that languages let themselves do that? That languages lend themselves to that kind of usage? And of course, this is not a modern issue. In ancient times, the oracles of Greece were famous. They were sort of like prophets or prophetesses, because it was usually women, who were supposed to be able to transmit a message from the gods to men. So a king or somebody would ask a question and the oracle would answer. The oracle at Delphi was probably the most famous, and one story has it that King Croesus, who was the king of Lydia and who was well known for being very rich, even to this day people use the phrase, he's as rich as Croesus sometimes. King Croesus inquired with the oracle as to whether he should cross a certain river and attack the Persians who were threatening him. The oracle said, if you cross the river and attack the Persians, you will destroy a great kingdom. Well, he took encouragement from those words and crossed the river and attacked the Persians, and the Persians won. And the great kingdom that was destroyed was his own kingdom. And the oracle was quite able to say, well, I told you so. A similar case happened with the oracle of Dodona, as I remember. A general or somebody inquired with the oracle about a battle that was coming up. He was supposed to fight in this battle, and he wanted to know how it would go for him. Now, this story comes to us in Latin. There is a Greek version, but it shows some evidence of having been back translated from Latin. Part of the evidence is the fact that a particular future form is used that is not attested until relatively recent times. That is, during the reign of Nero. So 2,000 years ago counts as relatively recent times for this purpose. Anyhow, in Latin the form is Ibis Redibis, numquam per bella peribis. You can translate that literally as, you will go, you will return, never, in battle you will die. So the soldier, according to at least one version of the story, he goes to battle and is killed. And the oracle can say, see, I told him so. You will go, you will never return. You will die in the battle. It's a matter in English, and probably in Latin too, of where you put the comma. If you put the comma after redibis, that means you will go and you will return, comma. Never in battle will you die. And that's a perfectly good word order in Latin. In English it sounds a little bit odd. But if you put the comma after nunquam, never, then the meaning will be, you will go, you will never return. In battle you will die. Which again is good Latin, even though it sounds a little funny in English. So, you can take it either way. And that was the nature of a lot of oracular utterances. Interestingly enough, in several modern European languages, Ibis Redibis is a technical term that lawyers use to mean a law or a decree or some other kind of document that is ambiguous, that can be interpreted more than one way. So if it may have gotten in there on purpose, it may have gotten in there by accident, but one way or another, look at here, here's an Ibis Redibis. You be careful of this phrase, because it might well be interpreted by somebody else in a way that you don't like very much. It's not just phrases that behave this way. A fair number of lexical items do the same thing, like words. One that I deal with a lot is the word sanction. I use it when I'm talking about linguistics in a positive sense, but I'm always sitting there kind of scratching my head thinking, what if people take this in the negative sense? Because a lot of people only use it or know it in the negative sense. The positive sense is a sense of conferring legitimacy or authorizing or giving approval. On the other hand, it's sometimes used to mean applying sanctions, and sanctions are understood by many. It's not the only meaning, but one meaning of sanctions is fines and punishments. So when you sanction an activity, are you saying, yes, you can do it, or are you saying, no, and if you do it, you're going to have to pay for it because it's going to cost you if you do it? Well, now we're back to the original example that we were dealing with. What are you going to do if you drive into this new construction area and you want to park your car? Do you park where the signs are, or do you park where the signs aren't? I asked some people that were working there the other morning. There was a man and his boy who were from the town of Veracruz, beautiful place, and another man who was also from the state of Veracruz, but from the town of Huatusco, which is near Orizaba. They explained to me how they work it. They said, well, whoever gets there first in the morning parks, one side or the other. The rest of us all park on the same side of the street. The people that put up their signs, what they're really interested in is big trucks being able to still get by on the street without having to move anybody's car. So they're happy, we're happy, it all works out. It is a beautifully Mexican solution. It's not the sort of thing you would expect here in the States, but I just love it. My hat's off to these people that have established that custom now. I hope that you can resolve all your dilemmas in an equally elegant way. May it go well with you.